Hey y'all, Chelsea and Danny here.
Enjoy this episode of Today's Homeowner here on YouTube.
If a home interior makeover is overdue at your house, we've got some great tips for you.
Today's Homeowner with Danny Lipford. Real projects for real homeowners with real solutions. Information and inspiration on improving your home from professional remodeler Danny Lipford.
Welcome to the show this week. You know, one of the best things you can do to the interior of your home to really improve its appearance? Add some more molding. I'll show you how you can combine certain pieces of stock molding to really get that custom look. And you might be surprised how easy it is to upgrade the look of the doors on the interior of your home. Don't go anywhere. We got a great show for you. Welcome back to the show. Now, stock moldings really can improve the look of the interior of your home in several different areas. One area around the fireplace mantle. Now, this homeowner used regular stock moldings, $75 worth of materials, and a few hours of time to create this great looking mantle. Now, I've seen mantles like this cost as much as $400. Now, another area of the home that you can really improve is around your windows, especially if your home was built in the last 30 or 40 years. Now, it may look just like this one with what we call a drywall return, where your drywall comes along, returns back into the jamb, and has a finished edge. Now, builders found that you could really approach a window like this much less expensive than trimming it out with wood. But I think you'll agree, it just doesn't look as good unless it has that nice wood look all the way around the perimeter of the window. Now, to do that, it's really very simple. We'll take stock moldings, wrap the window, put a new seal and apron in. It'll make a big difference. We'll start out by clearing out the area, getting a few tools. Now, the trim I'll be using around the windows is called a Colonial Casing. It's readily available at any home center. It's 2 1/4 wide, and this particular molding I've already primed and painted, which is always a good idea because once I complete the installation of the trim, one more coat and I'm all complete. Now, on the bottom part of the window opening, I'm replacing the existing window sill, or commonly called stool, with a piece of window stool. You can see it's about 5 1/4 inches wide. Has a little profile on this side, which will give it a nice finished look on the front of the opening. Of course, the first thing I need to do is to remove the old stool and take the needed measurements. I start removing the window stool and apron by scoring the caulking. Then, if you can see any nail heads, set them through the stool, which makes it a lot easier to pry it up. Now, we're replacing the existing window stool because it didn't extend out enough on each side of the window to accommodate the width of the new side trim we'll be installing. Now, after it's out, remove the casing piece that serves as the apron. I then measured the width of the opening for the new stool and checked the opening at the top to make sure it's the same. Then back to the saw to measure and cut the new stool and apron pieces. Now, I'm using both a motorized miter saw and a jigsaw to make all of the cuts. I then cut the top casing piece with a 45-degree cut on each end. The first piece I nail in place is the stool, followed by the apron piece. Then I set the nails slightly below the surface of the wood. Next, the top trim piece is nailed in place. Okay, now that we have the top trim piece in, our stool, our apron's complete, now I can take my measurements for each side for the last 2 pieces of trim that I need. Now, you may notice on this particular piece of trim, I've left about 1/8 of an inch reveal or offset between the corner of the drywall and the edge of the molding itself. The reason for this is most of the time on any door or window casings, you'll see an offset like that. Also, if there's a little waviness in the sheetrock, you won't notice it by doing it in this way. Now, I'll measure from the outside, or what we call the long point, 73 1/8, and then of course check it with the other side to make sure they built the house right. And we're looking pretty good there. The side trim pieces are cut and carefully nailed into place, making sure the nails are away from the edge of the opening. Next, I puttied up all the nail heads and caulked the cracks around the stool. Now, to ensure the inside surface of the drywall will look like wood, I sanded it smooth. After a short drying time for the caulking, it's time to paint the final coat. Okay, we have one window complete and one more to go, and I think you'll agree this window looks a lot better than this one. And we only spent $15 in materials and a couple hours of time. Now stay with us when we come back. I'll show you how we're taking regular stock moldings, combining them to create multi-stage crown molding.
Get ready to review your fix-it list as Danny and home repair expert Joe Trewini show you this week's simple solution. Brought to you by DuPont Tyvek. Build it once, build it right.
A very common problem that I see with a lot of homes that have wooden fences and gates, saggy gates. But as usual, Joe has a solution to that problem.
You're right, Danny. In this case, most gates are built with the frame is just butted together. 2 pieces of wood or 3 pieces of wood, and they're just joined together. There's no attachment here. And the wood shrinks, and it just, here you see the homeowner tried fixing with some nails and screws. It's just a mess. So we're going to tear that all off and rebuild it. And the way we're going to build it so it lasts longer is by creating half-lap joints.
Okay.
The half-lap joint is nothing more than 2 pieces of wood, in which case half of the wood has been cut away, and the pieces overlap, creating a really strong, rigid joint because the 2 shoulders lock together. Just a little glue and screws, and it's surprisingly strong.
Now I'm sure this is a lot of fun cutting this out though with a saw.
It's actually not that difficult. Yeah, I don't know if it'd call it fun, but it's not that difficult. What you do first is you measure the width of the board. In this case, it's 3.5 inches because it's a 2x4. Measure it from the end and draw a shoulder line, and then set your saw blade to half the thickness, in this case 3/4 of an inch. Then make a series of closely spaced cuts through the wood, and then use a hammer to knock out all the waste wood. And then just take a chisel and scrape the surface really smooth. And when you're using the chisel, you'll notice at the end's got a little bevel to it. Use it with the bevel down, which will prevent it from digging in. And you end up with, it really doesn't take that long, you get a pretty smooth surface right there.
Okay, so you can do this on the corners as well as, I guess, on the diagonal bracing as well.
Absolutely. Half-lap joints can be cut for diagonals, just cut it at an angle.
Crown molding can make a big difference in any room in your home. Now to show you how big of a difference it can make, look at this room, then look at this dining room. Kind of looks bare in here. Now when you're choosing crown molding for your home, you need to consider how large of a room that the crown molding will be going in and how high the ceilings are, because you want to pick the right size molding for the size room. Now here's 4 very common types of crown molding that you'll find at any home center. Now this one runs about 30 cents a foot. It's called bed molding. It's about 1.5 inches wide. Now you see this a lot on the outside of homes running around the overhang area. Now the size we just looked at in the living room is this size. It's 2.5, runs 40 cents a foot, and for most homes that have 8-foot ceilings, it's just the right size. Now the next size up is a 3.5 inch crown molding, 65 cents a foot, a little bit wider, very similar in profile. And then the real big one, 5-inch molding, is actually 60 cents a foot. Now to give you an idea in what I just spoke about in the size moldings, if you have a room like this and you try to put this molding up, it's just really too small. The type of molding that was chosen by the homeowners, the 2.5, is really fine, looks pretty good. But they could have stepped up to a slightly larger molding, which is the 3.5. You can see that really looks good, especially when you see the contrast or the comparison with the door molding here. Then, if they had decided to step up to the 5-inch molding, that's a little big, almost makes the room a little top-heavy. But now something that's been taking place over the last few years is combining crown moldings with other moldings that you just don't traditionally use around the ceiling area. Here's a good example. Now this is a base cap molding that traditionally is used in conjunction with a 1x6 or a 1x8, that you use it for your baseboard and that caps it off real nicely. But if you use that and combine it with a crown molding like this with that, then sand this area that's your drywall just like we did the window casing earlier. Then paint from this point all the way down to this point. It just looks like one nice large piece of crown molding. Now you can also take a piece of baseboard. This is one that is commonly called New Orleans base. It's 5.5 inches wide, has a real nice profile on it, and you take this, put it right up to the ceiling, upside down. Then you take a crown molding, in this case again the 3.5, nail it right on top of it, caulk it, paint it. It looks like one big piece of molding. Now you can also combine other types of moldings with crown molding to really make some impressive pieces. Now we've mocked up a few pieces of molding here to give you an example of combining these moldings and what it can look like. Now this is a piece of 3.5-inch crown with 2 pieces of 4.5-inch baseboard. All of this put together costs you about $1.65 per lineal foot for the materials. Now to step up to a larger look, 5.5-inch piece of crown, 2 5.5-inch pieces of New Orleans base to create a large piece of molding like this. This will cost you about $2.65 per lineal foot for the materials. Of course, you're going to have to pay that trim carpenter a little extra because he has to make it all the way around the room at least 3 times. Now, large moldings like this are commonly used in large areas like the 2-story foyers that you see in a lot of homes or just very large rooms. Other moldings are commonly used in specialty ceiling situations where you have bump ups or recessed type ceilings, and this will really highlight those features that you may have in your home. Stay with us.
Now let's join Danny at the Home Center to check out the best new products. Brought to you by the Home Depot.
It seems like every time I need my wheelbarrow at home, the wheelbarrow tire is flat, either from a nail or a piece of glass, or simply the seal between the tire and the rim has given way, allowing all the air to leak out. Now, I love it when we find products that will address problems I'm having at home, and that's what we found with the True Temper flat-free wheelbarrow tire. Now, it's available in a couple different sizes that are the most common sizes for wheelbarrow, but here's the big difference between the pneumatic tire and the flat-free tire. It's filled with 100% of microcellular polyurethane. And because of it being filled in this manner, it still is fairly lightweight and still gives you the maneuverability a standard pneumatic tire would have. Also, it's available in a couple different colors, and you can even find this type of tire already installed on a new wheelbarrow if you look closely. Now, it'll be a little bit more expensive because a standard tire will cost you around $20. This one will cost you around $40, but certainly it's a lot better to spend a little extra money up front and not have to worry about spending all your time at a gas station, having your tire repaired, and taking away that valuable time you have in your yard. Well, so far this week, we've looked at improving the windows around your home by installing wood trim and what's involved in crown molding. Now, let's take a look at another home where we've helped some homeowners there update their home, including changing their wood interior smooth doors to a very nice panel door. It's a lot easier and a lot less expensive than you might think. Now, there are a number of things that you can do, very simple things to the interior of your home that can really make a big difference. Now, we've already gotten a good start in this area of the home by installing a pre-finished hardwood floor. Also, we've upgraded our moldings around most of the doors that really make a difference. Then over in the corner, the homeowner had installed a new granite countertop here on the wet bar, also new sink, new faucet. Then, to save the cabinetry that they had in place, they had the cabinet maker put in new cabinet doors that are raised panel doors, and later the plumber will be in to install an ice maker, and the painter will be back to touch everything up. Really has made a big difference in this area of this home, but it also made the homeowners realize how bad the smooth doors look. This is just what they call a Luan hollow core door, and really needed an upgrade on this, so they went to the home center and chose a very common 6-panel door that we have here. Now, one of the things you want to think about when you're selecting the doors for your house, first of all, you need to measure, of course, that the width is right and the height is right on the doors so that you have no problems with the existing opening. Then check on the thickness of the door. Most interior doors will be 1 3/8 inches. Exterior doors are usually 1 3/4 or even 2 inches in thickness. Then, to install the doors, a fairly simple type of carpentry work but it does require a little bit of skill and a little bit of time. Now, you can take your time on it and install just one a day or as you have a little bit of time in installing the doors, but the first step is to remove the door by popping out the hinge pins. To remove the hinge pins, use a nail set or large nail and hammer. Then leave the half hinges on the existing door so that you can measure the spacing of the hinges on the new door. Now, if you're replacing several doors, you may want to build a door stand like we have here that makes it very easy to work on the door and install the hinges. Now, if your hinges are old, this is a great time to replace them. Now, these hinges were replaced just a couple years ago and still look fine. Now, after the hinges were removed from the old door, measurements were taken for the new door. The door is placed in the door stand and the recessed areas are laid out. The hinges are recessed approximately 1/16 of an inch or the thickness of the hinges. Now, most carpenters use a router for creating this recessed area, but it's also very easy just to use a sharp chisel and a hammer. Now, after that's all complete, attach the hinge halves to the door and it's time to place the new door in the old jamb. Now, once it's in the jamb, reinstall the hinge pins and check the swing of the door. Now, with a new door in place, it's time to drill the large hole that's needed for the doorknob. Now, it's 2 1/8 inch in diameter, so we'll have to use a hole saw, which makes it very important for some correct measurements. Now, since the strike hole from the old doorknob is already there, we simply mark its location to know where to position the new doorknob holes. Now, we're using a hole saw and a 1/2 inch drill for this drilling project. Next, we drill the plunger hole with a 7/8 inch paddle bit. Now, we'll hold off on installing the doorknob until the painters had a chance to prime and paint the door. Now, it's really made a difference in how this is going to look, especially after it gets painted, and it's taken about 2 hours to install the door and it's cost around $90 for the door itself. But it's really made a big difference in upgrading this area of the house.
Now let's go outside for Around the Yard with Danny and lawn and garden expert Tricia Craven-Worley. Brought to you by TimberTech Composite Decking. Less work, more life.
Well, Tricia, I know the birds love the bird bath, but there's a lot of maintenance here to keep this thing clean.
Well, we all love birds, and regardless of where we live, we all have the same problem, leaves in our water, and some of this other stuff down here.
Now, I know you can't do anything about the leaves unless you cut down a tree or so.
Heaven forbid.
But what about all the algae?
Well, we get rid of the leaves, and then we're going to deal with the algae. The first thing we have to do is clean everything out. First, we get rid of the leaves and debris from the bath. Then we spray out as much of the gunk as possible before mixing up a mild bleach solution. We'll then use the bleach solution and a brush to scrub out the bath, removing the algae and the stains it leaves behind. A quick rinse, and we're ready to refill the bath.
Well, this definitely looks a lot better than it was before.
It does. Now, this fountain hadn't been cleaned for quite a while, so we had to up the bleach a little bit to really get some of those stains out.
Now, how can I keep it this clean, though? That's the important thing.
Well, there is a very simple solution. 3 copper pennies.
Now, how's that going to work?
Well, Danny, there's a chemical reaction that happens between the copper and the water, and it helps to delay the growth of the algae, and I think the birds really appreciate the cleaner water.
But it won't hurt the birds.
No, it won't hurt the birds at all. And you know what? I think the 3 coins in the fountain at the Trevi Fountain, if it's good enough for there, it's good enough for this backyard bird bath.
Well, as you can see, there's a number of simple things that you can do inside your home that'll make a real big difference. Now, some of them require a little bit of a skill level, so you may decide to go to the home center and buy your materials, bring them home, do your priming and painting, then let a trim carpenter drop by to install everything. But if you decide to do it yourself, make sure you allow plenty of time, buy the right tools, and really enjoy improving your home. I'm Danny Lipford. We'll see you next week.
Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Today's Homeowner. And don't forget to comment, like, and hit the bell icon so that we can notify you when new videos are posted.
And don't go anywhere, click around and continue the home improving fun.